Well, welcome to the brightest audience in America. We are traveling down this Walt Brown controversy. We have done several talks reading the actual letters that went back and forth between the people involved. And just to get you up to speed, how you look at these documents. Let's see, I'm going to add this to the stage so you should be able to see what I'm doing. And to look at these documents yourself, you just go in and you type in hydroplate.org. hydroplate.org, and then you're going to get this, and then you go into hydroplate resources, go down to hydroplate controversy, and then you go up to the hydroplate timeline. And this is a really neat tool because you can just go from one. It started in 1986. You can see some of that goes on to 1987 or 88. And Walt Brown tried to take care of this privately here. He went to the people in charge and he started asking, pointed it out to them, see if they would do anything about it, and they rejected it. So eventually they decided to go to arbitration, and at the 2 working days before arbitration, the parties, the people Walt Brown was talking to, they said, nope, we're not doing arbitration, we'll only do mediation. And he had an hour to decide whether he would do it or not. And you could see some of these things. Yeah, where was that? You can see the notes from the mediation, which were pretty eye-opening. And then nothing happens for several years. And we did this the last reading. This was AIG helping or hindering part 1 or 2. And then we went along, and then these are real similar. There were some updates, but the most of it was pretty much the same. You can check these out yourself, but we're going to jump in right here. This is going to be June 15th, 2006. And that's going to be letter from Kevin Lee to Mark Raish of ICR. That's where we're going to jump into the controversy today. June 15th, 2006. This is from Pastor Kevin Lee, and it says June 15th, 2006. Dear Mark, greetings in the name of our precious Savior and soon coming King, Jesus. I want to start by saying how encouraged I was during our lunch meeting on June 6, 2006, where we discussed creation ministry issues and Dr. Brown's hydroplate theory. At the conclusion of our meeting, you requested that I write a summary of our discussion and the suggested course of action that we discussed. This email is my response to your request. Key discussion points. We discussed the idea that truth must be our primary objective. Only the truth honors God. Our children who are going off to public schools and colleges need to be equipped with the truth. We don't want them concluding that their parents, pastors, parents, or Christian organizations misled them. Number 2. Second, if not made clear during our discussion, I want to do so now. I am not seeking to exalt my person or organization. If my statement about the hydroplate theory, HPT, if my statements about the hydroplate theory, HPT, may have been an error, then that needs to come out. The sooner the better, so that I do not deceive people. I trust you and the leaders of ICR feel the same about the flood theories. You have promoted the canopy theory and catastrophic plate tectonics. As we discussed, the canopy theory explanation for the longevity of pre-flood man was inaccurate and led millions of Christians astray. Other aspects of canopy theory also failed to give a defensible explanation for the flood. I consider catastrophic plate tectonics to be even less defensible. I fear many people have lost their faith in the biblical errancy because of these errors on the part of canopy theory proponents. Many millions of people, including pastors, still think the canopy theory explains the flood. Problems with CT were well known within ICR for decades, and yet few spoke out, possibly because of loyalties to people, organizations, rather than the truth. Mark, I hope my main passion came out during our meeting, which is that those in the creation movement must become seekers and lovers of truth if we are to continue to make headway against the lies of Satan. If the current staff of ICR agrees that canopy theory was a mistake, then I believe ICR and or AIG needs to take the lead in cleaning up the resulting confusion. A few sentences in Acts and Facts or a paper that few will ever read at a conference will not get the job done. If known to be false, canopy theory needs a well-publicized funeral. Increasingly, evolutionist teachers are stepping into their classrooms with fear because of the advances made by intelligent design people. Not because ID people have sold more books than others, but because they have provided scientifically and in a way that the layman can understand that what we know about life at the microbiological level cannot be a product of chance and time. Tragically, they are deceived in other areas, old earth, no global flood, which will only add to the confusion about biblical inerrancy. Let everything that hath breath has breath. Praise the Lord. Praise the Lord. Psalm 156. It is because of inroads that ID is making that I think it is even more important for Orthodox creation organizations to pursue biblical and scientific explanations for a global flood. If the flood was a global cataclysm that involved the entire earth, then the best explanation will likely involve several disciplines, while the puzzle pieces of all observed earth science will likely only fit into an explanation that is consistent with the truth. Models that only address one discipline without regard to other disciplines that would have certainly been affected by a global cataclysm are much less likely to be the truth. 4. If the biblical flood of Noah is the truth, then two important puzzle pieces are answers to the questions. Where did the water to flood the entire earth all at one time to a height of 22.5 feet above the highest landmass come from? And 2, where did all the water go? Any proposed flood explanation should answer these two questions. 5. Any creation flood explanation that is not biblical is not the truth and is therefore in violation of the main goal and should be abandoned by all, including originators and proponents. Otherwise, the mission of the mission of the church suffers, as is the case with Hugh Ross's Reasons to Believe. 6. Since Satan is the author of lies, he will use all his tools of deception in the form of spiritual warfare to deceive people, churches, organizations, and to be entrenched in a lie. If our fleshly attitudes, which are used by the enemy to do his dirty work, are not crucified, then the truth will be crucified instead, and the church will suffer in its mission. Pastor Lee's additional points and concerns in light of the above. 1. Dr. Brown's hydroplate theory is consistent with every Bible verse pertaining to the biblical flood. 2. The hydroplate theory is consistent with observed scientific facts in many disciplines, including the earth science discipline, and has made several scientific predictions, many of which have come true. Another indication it should be the truth and therefore a viable apologetic explanation. 3. Despite the above facts, AIG and ICR have, over the years, used their organization to publish statements about the hydroplate theory that misrepresent the theory as published by Dr. Brown, and then make arguments against their misrepresented hydroplate model. A recent and blatant example of this is Dr. Baumgartner's December 2002 contribution to the Technical Journal. AIG's web page currently misrepresents Dr. Brown's hydroplate model by using a picture that he published 20 years ago and subsequently replaced. Because AIG misunderstood the picture, their description is also in error. Dr. Brown's current last 15 years pictures have been improved to help prevent these misunderstandings by the readers. Both AIG and ICR have misrepresented the hydroplate theory in many forums. These actions have resulted in many people deciding to not even consider the hydroplate theory, since the two largest creation organizations consider it untenable. As Rob Yardley noted in our discussion for a number of years, he discounted the hydroplate theory because of the misrepresenting statements made by AIG and ICR. It is obvious to anyone who has looked at AIG and ICR actions against Dr. Brown's theory by omission as well as commission that these organizations consider him a liability rather than an asset to creation apologetics, which is tragic, especially in the light of the recent Stardust space probe results and the results from drilling into the Arctic Ocean. In both cases and many other recent scientific discoveries, the results are shocking to evolutionists, but are predicted by or consistent with the hydroplate theory. 4. With this background, you then asked what my views were about what should be done from here. Recognizing that we all have our biases, I feel the following would help us all in our pursuit of truth. Recommended solutions. 1, I recommend that the staff at ICR read the hydroplate theory carefully. I can send PDF files of the current edition as posted at Dr. Brown's website, or colored copies if there is a sincere interest. I would hope that the 5 ICR advocates and authors of CPT, Doctors Baumgardner, Austin, Snelling, Humphreys, and Vardaman, if he is not completely out of the retirement door yet, will read it. But I would be naive to assume that they would give any sincere time to it. If so, I think it is imperative that others at ICR read it. Interested laymen can easily understand the main points of the hydroplate. Several teenagers in our church have a good handle on it, so others, including yourself, would benefit from reading it as well. However, as I mentioned in our meeting, some sections of Dr. Brown's work, the comet chapter, for example, requires a good knowledge of engineering physics. Lacking this, some of his statements associated with orbital physics of all known comets cannot be appreciated. I think the other bright people, maybe even friends of ICR staff, should be asked to give you their candid opinions. I would hope that John Morris would take the time to carefully read it. If the first 5 named above reject the hydroplate, understandable from a human perspective, but others at ICR who have little stake in the outcome see the hydroplate as possibly superior to canopy theory and catastrophic plate tectonics, then the leaders at ICR should realize that they may have a serious problem. 2, I think that the ICR staff should then have an in-house discussion to help come to an accurate understanding of Dr. Brown's theory. If there is a debate about what Walt is saying, then I think a conference call should be set up. Walt is always happy to answer questions from people who have made a sincere effort to read and understand the hydroplate. 3, if all of you feel to varying degrees that the hydroplate has merit, not meaning ICR endorsement, but at least a recognition that it is biblical and not junk science, then we have made progress in the bad-mouthing of Walt, which has gone on from ICR since 1984, will cease. That would be great progress. Mark, you are probably not aware of most of the negative comments, and it is probably the best to assume assume what you have heard is from one point of view. If you want to hear both sides, which is the best way to learn the truth, talk to Walt as well. I described a little of it at Calvary PO's pages, Flood Wonders. I suggest you begin with the general summary. If I am saying anything that is incorrect in these postings, please let me know and I will correct it. 4, if all of you reject the hydroplate, then it will be my hope that everyone proceeds in a calm, rational way to seek the truth. I would want to hear the reasons why, so I can be convinced of where my biases are wrong. 5, if the reasons are based on canopy theory or catastrophic plate tectonic bias, then I think the next step would be to try to accomplish what Walt has been suggesting for years. That is to ask the Creation Research Society to identify about 10 qualified researchers to study the hydroplate and catastrophic plate tectonics. These researchers should have 1, exemplary biblical and scientific backgrounds from a variety of relevant disciplines, and 2, no connection to ICR, AIG, or Walt Brown. After the researchers read the 2 or 3 if CT is included theories, they should question the respective authors in writing and publish as a group their independent conclusions in the Creation Research Society Quarterly. Walt proposed this to Larry Vardaman when Larry had lunch at Walt's home a year or two ago, but Larry declined, saying it would create a bureaucracy. I fear the spiritual damage of not having a unified, among creation organizations, biblical scientific answer for a global flood much more than I do any bureaucracy involved with trying to come up with a strong apologetic. If ICR and AIG, for that matter, is unwilling to have a fair, open, truth-seeking examination of CPT versus HPT, then I fear that the truth is not the primary goal, and we will continue to lose ground to the evolutionary lie and or the intelligent design old earthers. I received a call today from a student of the Calvary Chapel Bible College who is home during the break. He mentioned that one of his teachers has switched to old earth in his personal view, but still teaches young earth by obligation. What a tragedy. And finally, since hundreds of thousands of people have benefited from Dr. Brown's work in their fight against the evolution lie, I encourage ICR to start treating him as an asset to the creation movement rather than a liability. I apologize if this executive summary has turned into more of a sermon, but I can't help myself. Sincerely and in his service to the master till he comes, Kevin Lee. Well, that sounds nice. Okay, so we'll go back to the timeline. Oh, wait a minute. Maybe we can what you can do is just go to the next letter down here. Down here, let's see, over here, it's going to be letter from ICR to Pastor Kevin Lee in response to Kevin Lee's letter of June 15th. Okay, here we go. So this has Institute for Creation Research letterhead. And I don't know if it's an email or not, but let's see. Okay. Okay, this is from Mark Raish. Oh, this looks like it must be an email. Okay, date June 20th, 2006. So 19 years ago and a half. Greetings, Kevin. As promised, I presented your recommendations regarding Walt Brown's hydroplate theory to ICR's Administrative Council and President after a serious... Oh, let me make it bigger for you guys if I can. Oh, yeah. That'll be good for you guys and for me. All right. Greetings, Kevin. As promised, I presented your recommendations regarding Walt Brown's hydroplate theory to ICR's... Oh, let me make sure you're seeing it too. Sorry. Yep, you're seeing it. Okay. Okay. Greetings, Kevin. As promised, I presented your recommendations regarding Walt Brown's hydroplate theory to ICR's Administrative Council and President. After serious deliberation and prayerful consideration, it was decided that it is not in ICR's best interest to carry out your recommendations because ICR's leadership feels that the risk for harm outweigh the potential for good. This decision was primarily based on the following two reasons. I was informed that several members of our faculty are quite familiar with Walt Brown's hydroplate theory and strongly disagree with it. 2, given the long history of disputes between ICR and Walt Brown and the mediation against agreement between Walt Brown, Henry Morris, and Steve Austin on June 21st, 1994, our leadership team has determined that it would be counterproductive to begin revisiting Walt Brown's theories since we are already familiar with them and potential for agreement is minimal. In simple terms, ICR leadership appreciates and agrees with most of Walt Brown's ideas about creation and his contributions to the creation movement, but has decided that it is in our best interests, in our ministry's best interest, simply to agree to disagree on the few remaining secondary issues, avoiding unnecessary disputes which could lead to seeds of discord. Kevin and I enjoyed our lunch meeting in San Diego and hope that we will have the occasion to have fellowship again. While there will obviously be disagreements and differences among the brethren this side of heaven, I know we both share the hope of glory when the former things are passed away. and we will worship our Creator in perfect unity forever. Mark Rausch, Director of Outreach and Research Development, Institute for Creation Research, Santee, California. Okay, so let's check out this timeline again. Let's go over here. Let's go to the timeline creation. Wait a minute, hydroplate. Okay, so we did those 2 letters. Check out the timeline again. And let's see, go up to the timeline. Whoa. Go to the timeline. Hydroplate timeline. Scroll your boat. We did those, we did these, we just did these right here. So it's going to be almost it could be over a year before this comes up again. Okay, so this might be a good place to stop. Okay, so this is ICR's response to Pastor Lee, and they did not give any technical reasons. Let's go back to this. Okay, yeah, let's go back here. Remove this. Okay, so let's just summarize this real quick. That was Pastor Lee. He met with somebody from ICR, and he recommended some solution. And the guy, to his credit, he brought it to ICR's board, and the board thought about it, but thought that it was in their best interest not to look at it, and so they didn't do what Pastor Lee had recommended, where the best interest would be for the truth. And yeah, so that's where it sits in 2005 or 6 or whatever that was. And so again, if you want to hear more about this, I think this is a good place to end. There are also resources out there on YouTube, the Hydroplate Week of Celebration. You can hear people being interviewed about the hydroplate theory. It's how it's an effective ministry tool. Yeah, I'll just show that to you. Let's go into up here. We're going to go into the Hydroplate Week of Celebration, which is going to be on YouTube. And you're going to see, we're live streaming. Look at yourself, wave. You're going to see they did 6 nights of interviewing about 12 or 13 people. You can see the interviews down here, and it's very positive for Walt. And why is the hydroplate resisted? Let's take a look at this one. Oh, you aren't going to be able to hear it. That's right. Sorry about that. You'll have to look at that. Maybe. Wait a minute. I think I can do something here. I'm going to remove this, and I'm going to take that down, and I'm going to add a tab. Yeah, screen share, a tab. It's going to be this one. And so now you should be able to hear this. Why is the hydroplate resisted? Go. So, okay. All right. We're going to. Okay. Yeah, we're good. Okay. So, again, we are just going through this hydroplate controversy to get all the information out there so people can make informed decisions. And the reason we're doing this is because there is a theory that makes accurate predictions, and it's being ignored for whatever reasons. And so we're trying to shine light on that theory and the reasons why it may be ignored. So again, thank you for joining us, and we will be coming back in 10 minutes maybe, and we will proceed down this path, and hopefully this situation will get rectified so that a theory that logically explains 25 major features on Earth and in the solar system, makes astoundingly accurate predictions, and is also validated by NASA discoveries, will be accepted and discussed. And then we can have an avalanche of truth in the scientific community. So have a blessed day.